off we go to draft talk. And of course, it's under 3 weeks now to the 2025 NFL draft. I'm looking forward to putting together our mega cast, Sarah, for opening night. That's Thursday, April 24th. So stay tuned in terms of the guests that we have coming up for you and just the content itself. But top 30 visits are underway. And the Ravens, as we learned earlier this morning from NFL Network and friend of the show, analyst Ian Rappaport, he tweeted this after working out for 30 NFL teams last week. So he's been busy. UCLA linebacker Carson Schwesinger is on a top 30 visit in Baltimore today, according to Ian's source. The rising prospect could be in play for the Ravens at number 27 to pair with All-Pro Roquan Smith in the middle. Sarah, your first reaction when you saw this come down the timeline?
Well, first of all, my bigger thing is I always make fun of people who report on meetings between player and draft prospects at, say, the Combine or at the Senior Bowl or anything like that, because all teams are meeting with everybody there. But you only have 30 visits to your facility. And famously, Eric DeCosta talks about how proud he was to keep the visit from Lamar Jackson to the Ravens facility under wraps, because Lamar, we all know now, I didn't know it at the time, Lamar is uber secretive, and so is Eric DeCosta, and he didn't want to tip his hand to let people know that he was interested in the quarterback position. So 30 visits to your facility, those are very different from a 15-minute interview with a combine prospect that everybody's talking to. Okay. Sure. So that is the first thing, is that the Ravens are interested enough in this inside linebacker out of UCLA to use one of their 30 visits on him. My second reaction was, inside linebacker at 27. Not sure that I'm feeling that. Again, the Ravens are at a point where they really are at a select best player position where they could line up and play a game today, and they could go to the playoffs as long as Lamar's healthy. And so inside linebacker, to me, not the biggest need, but a need, given that Trenton Simpson hasn't become what we had hoped so far. He's a third-round pick. He's only been through 2 years, so he could still develop, but he hasn't come into his own just yet.
Let's learn a little bit about Carson just for the purpose of the exercise. And he is on record for saying, by the way, and that's the wrong screen share, so stand by here as I do a little bit of mixing and matching.
I have one if you want.
I got you.
Were you going to bring up this one, or you got it?
I got you.
Okay.
So, redshirt junior is his class, 6'2.5 inches. Meaning 6'2.5", 242 pounds. You see the arm and the hand size there. Didn't do a ton in Indianapolis there. Only a vertical jump and a bench press there is down on his measurements for the combine. And then when you go down to Lance Zierlein, who's the NFL's draft analyst for NFL.com, he always has these write-ups. And so we might as well just quickly take
his overviews are always great. They're short and to the point. Love his overviews.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And so Lance has a note here, Schwesinger went from walk-on to All-American at UCLA. So cool underdog story, resilience, so on and so forth. He's a human bloodhound.
Yeah.
Pairing elite instincts. That's an amazing phrasing.
That's
human
awesome.
bloodhound. Pairing
That's
elite
better.
instincts.
We were looking for synonyms to dog. Somebody on here, I think, had canine or something like that. How about human bloodhound?
Yeah. I think that's a lot better. Yeah, that gives you some differentiation from dog, doesn't it?
Yeah.
For sure. Pairing elite instincts with an understanding of blocking schemes and run tracks. The pursuit speed is average, but his play recognition helps him play fast. He's undersized and takes the worst of it when blockers get on top of him, but he's a good athlete in coverage. He's also a sound technician. He's also a sound technician as an open field tackler and bona fide standout on special teams. The Ravens will enjoy that. Schwesinger was a starter for only 1 season, but his instincts, athleticism, and competitiveness help him project as a future starter, either inside or as a 4-3 will linebacker, which is weak side. I also have a note here as well from an interview that he did with Tom Pelissero, another friend of the show, NFL Network guy, that he likes to emulate his game after the likes of Luke Kuechly, Matt Milano, Fred Warner, and oh, by the way, Roquan Smith. So should we read the weaknesses and positives, or do you think you have enough on them?
I mean, I'm good. I mean, you could do, why don't you do some of the weaknesses? Because most of that was all positive, right?
Exactly.
So why don't you do some weaknesses?
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And there's a few of them. Lead blockers tend to neutralize him in the hole. Has issues getting rid of big bodies attacking him. This is kind of what he was getting at up in the, what did he say up here? Because he's undersized and takes the worst of it when blockers get on top of him. But then he goes on to say, like almost like his athleticism makes up for certain areas in coverage.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, has issues getting rid of big bodies attacking him. He's quick, but his chase speed appears to be average. Lacks the size and force for ideal stopping power as a hitter. Could have issues carrying backs out of the backfield. In other words, it's all related to his undersized stature, right? Like every weakness he has on here is essentially that. It's not like his processing ability. It's not like his intellectual ability, which I guess that's a positive, but
that's huge at the inside linebacker position, right? Where sometimes you're the quarterback of the defense.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because, Bobby, when I saw reaction to this visit, and by the way, it doesn't mean that he's going to be picked, but it does hold some weight because it's one of the 30 visits that they get. So everybody is talking about how this might be a slight on Trenton Simpson. But to me, it's also like, wait a minute, a first-round pick at inside linebacker. I don't remember too many first-round picks used at inside linebacker during the Ray Lewis era. You know what I mean? And so it's also like, are they it would be Roquan Smith would also be like, okay, you brought in competition. That's a first-round pick. Now, I don't know that he's actually good enough to bring that, but that's what a first-round pick signifies. And Roquan Smith, if you were to look at here, I'll just actually bring it up right now. If you were to look at his cap hits over the next couple of years, you'll see on Spot Rack, let me blow this up a little bit more, that white bar in the middle right here is always when there's like a potential out, which is like, that's when you're not carrying too much dead money if you were to move on, which would happen after 2025. And so obviously, and I am not saying that Roquan Smith should not finish out his contract here. I do not hate Roquan Smith, as I have been accused of Mark Andrews. This is salary cap reading and draft combined with what it means if they were to actually use a first round pick at certain positions. So I know that Roquan Smith did not have as good of a year last year as he had his previous 2 years in Baltimore. That said, I'm not as down on him as some people are. That is not what I'm doing here. But if you're saying that you're going to draft a first round inside linebacker, and then you're seeing that when it comes to salary cap, when he's going to count 28 million, almost 29 million next year, then, but that would be 17 million in dead cap. So that feels like not cuttable to me, but certainly the next year. And so a first round inside linebacker says a lot about Trenton Simpson, but it says a tiny bit also about Roquan Smith, because I just don't remember that happening too much with Ray Lewis.
Yeah. And maybe the umbrella overall of that is like strategically planning ahead and maybe even having like an emergency type plan in place as well in the building. If you do indeed try to, move on from Roquan Smith at some point in the coming years, as you just showed his contract value, obviously getting bigger and bigger and bigger salary cap wise as that contract gets older and older. While we continue to be on this conversation of top 30 visits and players and prospects that the Ravens and other teams in this case are taking a close look at, another one that appears to be coming to Baltimore here soon, according to Ian Rappaport, is William and Mary offensive tackle Charles Grant. He's visiting Tennessee today and has the Ravens, Eagles, and Bengals coming up. He also had an early visit with the Texans last week. Let's pull up his draft profile. This dude is a big human being. I know that for sure. Let's learn a little bit more about Charles Grant, who again played his college football at William and Mary. He's 6'5", 311, played a lot of college football. He did play all 4 years, or at least was with the program all 4 years. Look at the arm and hand size through the roof. He's a big body.
Does it have does it have on here, Bobby, like where he's projected to go in the draft?
I don't believe day one.
Scores here. We see a prospect grade, which at 6.23 for their scoring at NFL.com means that he'll be an eventual. Can you go back up where I was showing the score? Back up. There you go. He will eventually be an average starter. That's their prospect grade. We didn't mention it for the UCLA linebacker, but he was projected to be a plus starter eventually. But but I don't see what round he's projected to go in here, Charles Grant.
I don't either. But when you read the tea leaves a little bit, I don't believe it's day one.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be surprised if it's maybe day 2, early day 3. So, but let's see what Lance has to say about him. And in his overview, he writes, highly consistent performer with elite length and better technique than many prospects coming from a higher level of competition. Grant played with both urgency and positioning in William & Mary's zone-heavy approach, but he needs to add bulk and improve his pad level play with the drive and anchor needed as a pro. Former high school wrestler utilizes a bag of tricks with his protection approach and possesses adequate core strength to absorb a speed-to-power pass rush. He could develop into a solid pro as either a guard or tackle if he cleans up issues with hand usage. Going to his weaknesses, massive step up in competition, could take time to navigate, just referring to the conference he played in. Obviously at William & Mary, trying to translate to the NFL. Inconsistent punch quickness mitigates his length advantage. Average slide quickness to seal off top of the rush. Has a habit of hugging or holding when attempting to sustain cutoff blocks, and needs to improve pad level for drive blocking duties in the pros.
I was just looking up just to compare his size versus Ronnie Stanley, because you had talked about, he really does have prototypical tackle size. So here he is at 6'5". Ronnie Stanley is 6'6". Charles weighs 311. Ronnie Stanley listed at 310. Charles is his arm length, which is extremely important at the tackle position, as you want to keep these outside linebackers off of you. He's 34 3/4. Ronnie Stanley is 35 3/4. So Ronnie Stanley's got a full inch. But he does have that prototypical size, and the Ravens do need a swing tackle. They do need a swing tackle. So somebody like this as depth would be great, but as you said, where you get them, that's why I asked about it. Where you get them means a lot. It means a lot. Like, okay, you need a backup swing tackle, but at what cost?
Yeah, I'm looking around a little bit here just to give you more substance there in terms of where he could potentially fall. And it looks like there's kind of a consensus when you look around a little bit for 70s, 80s. So you're looking at day 2, maybe early day 3 for Charles Grant, who the Ravens reportedly will meet with here, as many other teams will as well. And, just it kind of seems like a little bit of a project, especially when you think about the transition from William and Mary football to playing on Sundays. But hey, it's got a lot of those traits, and I think that's kind of what Lance was getting at. See if that transitions and translates well for him at the NFL level. So Mina Kimes had on Dane Brugler, and as she continues to do these mock draft experiments, and it's not like, hey, this is the player for each. It's not like, hey, we're going to rattle off 32 players. No, we're going to go through situational scenarios that could play out, whether it's in the form of a trade or in the form of different positions that will qualify for every single team needs up and down the opening round. So anyway, here's what she posed to Dane Brugler, and then we'll talk about each one of these players and ultimately react to who he decides between Tyler Booker and Mykel Williams.
Is it playing for you, Bobby?
Is that not firing off for you either?
It's a black screen for me.
All right, let's go ahead and do this then. Why don't we reload it? And again, Dane Brugler, Mina Kimes coming up.
The Baltimore Ravens at pick 27. I'm going to put Mykel Williams back on the board, and I'm going to throw in Tyler Booker, guard out of Alabama, which is really their only need on offense.
Right. Yep. I'm going to go Mykel Williams, and I like Tyler Booker quite a bit. I think there's a lot to like about him, even though he's not the best athlete. You want a people mover, he can do that. I'm going to go with Mykel Williams, who is maybe the production isn't there, but he was banged up all year with an ankle. As long as he plays with the length, the ability off the edge to move tackles, he can dip underneath them. He can chase. He can do a lot of things. And another guy's yet to play his best football. He's 20 years old, will not turn 21 until he gets to his first training camp. So to get him at this stage of the draft, if I'm Baltimore, I'm feeling really good about that.
Okay, so again, that's for the scenario. He had the choice between Tyler Booker and Mykel Williams, and he went with the defensive lineman. And he also just tweeted earlier today that Mykel's got to be feeling pretty confident about his draft stock because he will be going to the draft in Green Bay. He's going to be there in person. He's accepted an invitation. Dane refers to him as a potential top 20 pick. So again, this could the Mina exercise here could very well just be an exercise. He may not be there at 27, but if he is, to Dane's point, it would be compelling for the Ravens board.
Yeah, between those two, I would also go with Mykel Williams. Listen, part of it is probably my desire to want to have an outside linebacker to have an edge. He had 5 sacks last year. Nothing that pops off, 4.5 the year before. So pretty consistent. In fact, here, if you want, I can bring up his profile, unless you're bringing it up now. There you go. You beat me to it. So they're projecting him with that 6.47 prospect grade to become a good starter within 2 years. Of course, everybody wants a first-round draft pick to come on sooner. But I think with Odafe Owe and KVN in there right now, you can wait 1 year, or about 2 years. Love Georgia. Love the guys that come out of there. Look at that size, 6'5", 260. And as much as I believe the Ravens still could use a guard and upgrade there, I still don't know what the Ravens have in Andrew Voorhees. I just don't know. So I just feel like the Ravens have had so much success getting guards in second, third, fourth rounds that I would prefer a first-round draft pick to go at an edge in Mykel Williams.
I totally agreed. It would almost feel like just leaves you wanting more, right? Like if you can find a developmental guard that can either come in and compete with Voorhees or be developed into somebody that, like a Daniel Fa'alele, that'll be a starter for you in the next couple of years. That just feels like the more optimal approach than using a first round draft selection on that position, especially when you have so much to be desired. You want to fortify that edge position as much as possible. To your point, let's learn a little bit more about Mykel. He's 6'5", 260. Again, played his college football at Georgia, so has done a lot of winning. Lance Zierlein's overview: an upside prospect with loads of traits. Williams simply needs more snaps and more time to fill out his frame. He's an explosive athlete who uses his exceptional length to keep tackles and tight ends at the end of his punch. He plays a little too tall at the point and needs to get stronger to shed blocks more quickly, but he plays with good physicality in the trenches and is never pushed around. He's still learning moves and counters, but already has a big bull rush.
Oh, I like that.
Good secondary effort. Yeah, I know that sticks out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Good secondary effort and the closing burst to become a sack blanket in the pocket, something that Adafe's struggled with in his time. He's not there yet, but Williams' improvement to become an impactful 4-3 base end feels inevitable. You get him in the Chuck Smith system, who knows? Weaknesses: needs to improve base strength and upper body power. I think they got a guy by the name of Scott Elliott that can help with that. The Ravens strength and conditioning department can be stalled by strong hands that cinch him up. Inconsistent press and shed at the point of attack. Pass rush approach is currently underdeveloped. That's why you have Chuck around. Rush can become too straight-legged and upright. Inside counters are redirected due to pad level.
Do they talk at all about? I didn't listen to the full clip. I think you listened to Mina. Do they talk at all? Like, is it realistic that he's going to go all the way to 27? Because I've heard people talk that he could go before then. So
For sure. I don't think there's a consensus on that.
Yeah.
But absolutely. I think for a lot of her most recent episode was like, hey, this is for the purpose of, like, she was literally
comparing
trades essentially.
Yeah.
So there were several trades prior to 27 that shook up her board that, again, just for the purpose of that exercise might not be reality, but it was a fun game to play. So yeah, I think the answer to your question is that it's not guaranteed in the slightest.
One other thing on the draft, you didn't have anything else on the draft, did you? Was this the last one?
Just a little bit more of familiarizing ourselves with
Oh,
Booker.
okay. Go ahead with Booker then.
Yeah, there's just a couple notes here. Jordan Reed, I caught up with him in Indianapolis. Still trying to get him on the show. Obviously, he's like the new Todd McShay for ESPN, so this is his Super Bowl. I don't know if he's going to have time in the next few weeks, but we'll keep trying. You know we're going to keep trying, partner. But Jordan writes that the standout traits that Tyler possesses, he projects as an early starter at guard for teams that specialize in man/gap/power run schemes. So might be a good fit there schematically in Baltimore. And then Matt Bowen just took a look at, like, hey, these are the NFL's best draft prospects at certain areas, certain traits, skill sets, so on and so forth. And the best anchor ability along the offensive line is Tyler Booker.
I like that.
So yeah, you just like that from intangibles, from traits. And but again, will Tyler Booker be there? Don't know.